Coming up on USL Pro Weekly, Orlando's undefeated start continues, but both Richmond and Rochester have impressive runs going of their own. We talk with the Rhinos' John McCarthy about his strong start to his rookie season. Sacramento Republic FC gave more than 20,000 fans a big win to cheer about at Hughes Stadium. We spoke with Rodrigo Lopez about the atmosphere and his game-winning goal. The Harrisburg City Islanders broke out big offensively. Is this a sign of things to come at Skyline Sports Complex? All this and much more on the latest edition of USL Pro Weekly. Welcome in to a new edition of USL Pro Weekly. My name's Nicholas Murray. Very pleased to be joined this week by David Wagner, back from vacation. How's the honeymoon, David?
It was fantastic. Fantastic. Happy to be back. Christening the new studio today.
Yes, we're in our new studio. We've expanded the office space here at USL, and that has incorporated a nice little studio here for us to work in instead of having to be out in the open, so that's nice. Did get to see one of your holiday pictures.
Indeed.
Up on the original winger.
Yes.
Bumpy pitch.
I was at the Atletico Malaga game last weekend. Unfortunately, I did not get to see title celebrations that day, but it worked out all right for Atletico last weekend. So.
Absolutely. So very entertaining game there. And but welcome back. And you've been keeping tabs on what's been going on around the league.
Of course. As soon as I got off the plane, I watched all the games because I was not allowed to watch any games on my honeymoon. Very
sensible, and keep Vicky happy. So there you go. But one of the games that I think caught everyone's eye this week was the Harrisburg City Islanders.
Indeed.
Who took a 5-3 win against the Dayton Dutch Lions. And this, a significant win, not just because of the nature of it, but Harrisburg had not won at home. They hadn't scored a goal at home so far this season. For them to break out like this, Clesio Barque, Morgan Langley each scoring a pair of goals, a really significant win for the City Islanders.
Yeah, let's talk about Morgan Langley's second goal too. How about that, right?
I saw that that might have appeared on Top Draw Soccer earlier this week. But yeah, it was impressive, not just because they went down in the first minute.
Yep.
But it was a really great comeback because, secondly, they let Dayton force their way back into this game with 20 minutes to go. They got a couple of goals by Eli Garner and then Aaron Schoenfeld with his second. So this was a 3-3 game with 20 minutes to go. And the City Islanders didn't allow themselves to get down on themselves. They kept pushing, and Jim McLaughlin, Morgan Langley hook up for what proved to be the game winner with 7 minutes to go.
Yep.
And then you have obviously Dayton chasing the game, and Langley with the technique and the execution to score from 70 yards over a stranded Matt Williams was obviously it's an amazing highlight, but it was an important goal because Dayton was knocking at the door looking to try and get that equalizer.
Yeah, we alluded to this the other day on the weekend recap. I mean, the question before this season was who's going to score the goals for Harrisburg. You had so many guys that were so potent, so deadly for him last year that aren't with the team anymore. Guys like Lucky M. Kassan and some of the other guys not with the team anymore, made a decision that it was better to move them on and best for the team. So the question was who's going to step up, who's going to be that person, because last year it was really a three-headed attack at times, and sometimes there were some other guys that pop up in the midfield and score a goal as well.
Exactly.
So early in the year we've seen Clesio come up, score some great goals. We know about his speed, we know his abilities. Obviously he comes from Portugal with a fantastic pedigree. But who's going to step up besides him, because you can't just be a one-man team. So to see Morgan Langley step up this week, score the goals, is really big for Harrisburg.
And Langley's a guy that's always had the potential there. He's always appeared to be a dangerous player, but it feels as though he hasn't quite gone over the edge and kind of made that next step. This might be the first step towards achieving that, and maybe he can improve on his career best, which I think last year he had 4 goals and 4 assists.
Yeah, and I think there's some other guys on the team that can step up as well. I look at a guy like Pettis, who obviously had a pretty good season 2 years ago and was injured for a lot of last year, had some troubles, but I think if he can get back into form, that would be a big boost for Harrisburg as well. So there's definitely some players there with some potential, and we know if anybody can, make the most of what they have, it's Coach Bill Betcher. So I think this is a really big win for Harrisburg, in that you never want to circle a game in May and say it's a must win, unless they're like and whatever. That wasn't the case with Harrisburg. They've had some nice wins. They went down in Wilmington and had a good win down there. So it's not ever the case where you say they had to win this game, but I think it's really important for getting them on the right track.
Definitely. I mean, you look at that win in Sacramento where Langley had the winning goal there as well. So that sort of thing, these are the sort of things that are going to put the team on the right track. They've got obviously a really nice Open Cup game coming up next week. So lots of good stuff to look forward to for them. A team that obviously has been undefeated and undaunted by anything that's been thrown in their path so far is Orlando City, and they're still top of the table. It wasn't the most impressive performance against Arizona United. I mean, they certainly got a little bit lucky with the goal that they scored, coming off a very spectacular own goal. But certainly a big element of luck to that. Because obviously the defender, it was in the right position to make the clearance. Unfortunately, just came off his shin wrong, and the rest is history. But Arizona really pushed them. Arizona again looked looked like a team that is going to be very hard to beat at home. I think it says something about Orlando that they were able to squeeze out that win. Miguel Gallardo seems to be coming into form. He's had a couple of really good games the last couple of outings, made some very good saves, very necessary saves in their wins in their previous road trip against Pittsburgh and Rochester, to kind of especially in that draw against Pittsburgh, where he made some big saves. He made some big saves against Arizona as well. And that's starting to click into gear as far as the Lions' defense is concerned. Yeah,
I think so. You made a lot of good points in that. I think the first one was the type of win that it was. It wasn't the best Orlando performance. I thought that Arizona played pretty well, actually, given the competition that they were facing. But this is the type of game that champions win. You know, you see Orlando coming off the championship last year, and these are the type of games where I think they had a lot of these type of games last year where they came in, especially kind of second half of the year when they were kind of just in some of their performances. Where they came in and sort of ground out a win, and that's definitely what they did this weekend. Maybe last year, though, during the middle half of that season where they weren't quite hitting all cylinders. This is the type of game they didn't win, though, where they drew or even lost it. So I think it's really indicative of where they are. You know, with the fact that they can go out on the road like that and get a big win. Also, you talked about Gallardo. You know, obviously, fantastic performance, team of the week this weekend, from this past weekend. And, you know, at times there's been some questions about him, especially last year. He lost his starting spot to John Kempen when John Kempen was on loan there. And if it wasn't for Kempen's injury, he might not have been the goalkeeper for the rest of the year had Kempen been healthy the whole year, because he was playing really well and he got injured. And then Gallardo came back in and kind of locked the spot down. So I think this is really important for Gallardo. Obviously, all those guys on the team want to put up good performances because they want to show that they deserve consideration for moving up to MLS with the rest of the club that they should be signed on. You know, I'm not saying that Gallardo is there yet, but I think performances like this are very helpful for him. You know, for his long-term goals and aspirations, and it's in the immediate term, it's important for the team as well because they need that solid presence in the back. Not that they don't have, you know, a solid reserve keeper with Carl, who played for the Blues last year. But this is really important for them, for Miguel to step up like this.
Now, two other teams that are on impressive undefeated streaks of their own are the Richmond Kickers and the Rochester Rhinos. Richmond went out on the road this past weekend, took a 4-1 win against Oklahoma City, and then managed to squeeze out a 0-0 draw against the Chicago Fire Reserves. Angry Joe Willis with the big penalty save in the 90th minute to earn his side a point there. That's 6 games undefeated for Richmond, and they seem to be coming into form. They've scored, and the interesting thing to me is they look as solid as they always have defensively. But this is a team that scored 22 goals in 8 games now. They are showing a firepower that we haven't necessarily seen from the Kickers in recent years.
I would actually argue, too, that this year's Kickers, I mean, last year, obviously, the regular season Kickers were fantastic. They won the regular season championship. A little disappointing in the playoffs. They only lost 1 game during the regular season. This year, I would argue, and I'll let you respond, too, that this Kickers team might be even more impressive. I think last year, they relied even more on their loan players, and I'm talking about the core of the Kickers team. So you're talking about a Brian Ownby who was on loan. I think the contribution of some of those DC players that came down were even bigger last year. Now, we talked about Joe Willis. Obviously, you know, they've found gold again with a fantastic goalkeeper on loan in that situation. But I think that some of the DC players that have been this year, they've come and gone. It hasn't been sort of the consistent mainstay of loan players that they experienced last year. You lost to Joseph Nguyen. So I think that the fact that the Kickers team that's there right now and the core that's been centered around, that's powered these performances, has been even more impressive.
And the guy that's really been at the center of that has been George Davis IV, who didn't really have if you looked at the score sheet, you wouldn't necessarily see his contribution, but he was absolutely fantastic against Oklahoma City. I mean, especially on the kicker's third goal, he made Kevin Ellis look a little bit silly because the way that he was able to get past him, get to the goal line, and pull back a perfect cross for Alex Lee to finish was just emblematic of the way he has played this season. He is so creative, so in control, and what's more, he's finding the back of the net as well. Absolutely fantastic season so far by him.
And we need to keep an eye on, too, Michael Seaton, who obviously came in and contributed last year for the Kickers and has had some good moments this year. Now, obviously, he hasn't been there for every game this year, but when he has been there, I think he's been impactful. Last year, he was more of a sub. This year, he's getting those starting minutes, and I think that if he continues to see time with the Kickers, that he'll continue to get results. Well,
it's been interesting to see that the Kickers seem to have really been consistent in the midfield lineups they've been putting out, but there seems to have been a lot of rotation in the front line where Matt Delicat's getting time up there. Jason Yeisley's now back from injury. Shea Spitz, who they brought in from the LA Blues, is now being asked to be kind of the second man, especially when they use Delicat up front. And so that's giving Seaton really seems to be coming off the bench a little bit as much as he was last season, but when he gets in there, he's really contributing well.
I think so too, yeah.
Now, Rochester, on the other hand, went on the road, just one game for them this weekend, but it was a significant one because they took a 1-0 win against the Pittsburgh Riverhounds that brought down the curtain on Justin Evans' spell as the head coach of the side. Obviously, it's been a very disappointing, very tough start for Pittsburgh, especially given the expectations going into the season with the squad that they had. For Rochester, though, this is looking like a Rochester team of old, especially with Bob Lilly back at the helm. You kind of expected that to happen, but this team has been watertight defensively, and they're getting the goals when they need to get the goals. They're getting just enough offense to pick up these wins. 7 games undefeated now. Their only loss of the season was in their opening game, and now they're one of those teams that is kind of bridging the gap and is going to be in contention for a top 3 place at the end of the season.
Yeah, I think so. Let's start with Pittsburgh. We've talked a little bit about how disappointing they've been this year. I think on paper, they're still one of the best lineups in the league. They have a fantastic array of people that they've signed on their own. We can go through the list of names. Obviously, they have guys coming back like Angulo. They brought in an Nguyen. You bring in a Collins John, who obviously has a fantastic international pedigree and has scored and set up some great goals already this year. Missed a few games with a suspension, but he's back now. And then you have some fantastic players on loan. We've already talked about Brian Ownby and what he did for Richmond last year, and some of the other players that they have on loan from Houston obviously have some fantastic talent. So on paper, this is one of the best teams in the league. In reality, they just haven't gelled. They haven't come together this year.
And that's the biggest thing. It's the chemistry issues. It doesn't seem as though the moving parts, especially in the attacking third, have figured each other out yet in the way that they were able to last season. Yeah,
and obviously it's tough. I mean, I know, Justin Evans, I think he's a good coach. I don't know what the situation was there, so it's a little tough on him. I think he'll land on his feet again, and we'll see him again in this league or some level of professional soccer coaching again. But, I don't know what the situation there is. If it's too many cooks in the kitchen or what the issue is with some of the talent they have there. But ultimately, I think I know this looking at it right now, and I know we said this all the time about Rochester last year, like, what's Rochester going to pull together? This is a better team than Rochester was last year.
Yeah.
So I think they are going to pull together, and I think they will be contending. If you asked me before the season, I would have told you to be contending for one of the top 4 spots. Obviously, I think that's out of reach now, but I think this team will be contending for that 6, 7, 8 spot at the end of the year still.
And if they get into one of those spots, the run of form they're going to put in, they are going to be the team that one of the top 3 seeds does not want to play.
They could be what Charlotte was last year, and that's sort of that low seed that makes a run. But they have to prove it. So let's table this conversation for a month. They need to get some wins underneath their belt.
Exactly. And as far as Rochester is concerned, they've obviously very impressive defensively. John McCarthy is the rookie who has really stood out. He leads the league in shutouts with 4 in 5 games. That team is playing very, very well indeed. Especially with a completely new back 4. That has kind of been the cornerstone of this side, and that's the sort of thing you'd expect from a Bob Lilly side. Yeah,
pretty impressive too from McCarthy. You come in, you have actually a goalkeeper on loan from New England and Sofner, and he hasn't really seen too much time. You've seen some time in some doubleheader weekends and things like that, but it's been pretty impressive. He's had some fantastic matches. Defensively, the team has been very solid, which you spoke about. For me, though, I still need to see some more offensive consistency from them. They've been relying on a goal from here, a goal from there, from a random player, and let's be honest, some of their goals haven't been the prettiest. They've been scrums in the box as the ball has bounced around and they poked it in, which was sort of the case this weekend. So for me, I need to see some more attacking build-ups, more consistency. That possession in the final third and fluidity between the attacking players up top, I don't think has been quite there yet. Yeah. I'm sure that's something that's front of mind for Coach Lilly, knowing him well. So I think it's something that's going to improve, whether it's making a trade or making another signing later in the year to, if the situation can't remedy themselves, we'll have to see. They have other guys on the books there that obviously haven't been fully fit and ready to go, like Matt Luzinares and things like that. Guys like Vu, who scored a fantastic goal at the beginning of the year. So who that guy is going to be, I'm not 100% sure yet. Luzinares
does look like he is getting very close. He's doing some very good stuff. He's being very visible on Twitter, and it definitely feels like he's getting close. And if he can be that final piece of the puzzle to provide a consistent scoring threat, especially when you've got guys like JC Banks providing service for you, that could be a really big boost to the Rhinos offense.
Yeah, if 2012 Matt Luzinares for the Orlando City Lions is available, I think they'd take him.
Definitely would. Well, we'll talk about Matt Luzinares once he gets back, but for now we got the chance to talk with Rhinos goalkeeper John McCarthy, and that interview will be coming up just after this break. Well, we're very pleased to be joined now by Rochester Rhinos goalkeeper John McCarthy. John, thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Yeah, of course, anytime.
Well, first of all, congratulations on the great start to your rookie season. 4 shutouts in 5 games so far, and a really big win for you guys on Saturday against Pittsburgh. How's the team feeling at this moment?
We're feeling good. We're starting to come together, and we knew that once the season got underway, it'd kind of be a little rough, but with all the new guys. But we're feeling really good right now, and we're just trying to keep working hard and keep moving forward.
There's been a bit of a balancing act for Bob Lilly, especially with yourself and Louis Soffner both up there, and Louis being on loan from the Revolution. What's it been like working alongside him, and how's the balance worked out where it seems like you guys are alternating games a little bit so far this season?
Yeah, it's awesome. Louis a great guy. We get along really well. We work really hard together. We push each other every day. So we're both in it to win it, and we're in it to get better at the end of the day. So whether he starts or I start, we're both pushing each other and just hope for the shutout, and you hope for the win, most importantly.
What does it mean to have 4 shutouts, though, at this point of the season, especially with it being your first year as a pro?
It's nice. It's real nice, but as long as we're winning, I could care less if we're winning 8-7, but as long as we're winning at one point or another, the shutouts are nice to have, but the winning is the most important thing right now.
Now, you obviously come from a background. You played at LaSalle in college. You also played in the PDL for Ocean City and for Reading United. What were those experiences like, playing for 2 of the top teams in the Mid-Atlantic Division?
It was awesome. They were both a huge help to my career moving forward. With Coach Tim Oswald at Ocean City, always had my back and pushing me to get better every day. And then when I went out to Reading for my senior season, or before my senior summer and stuff, it was a great experience with Brennan Burke there and pushing us along with some of the best players around. And it couldn't have been a better situation for me out there, I don't think.
You obviously got to play in the Open Cup last year, I believe, for Reading. You got to go to Red Bull Arena to take on for that matchup. Now that you're in the Open Cup again, you're 1 win away from another MLS matchup. Is that exciting for you personally?
It definitely is. It definitely is. You always want to try to better your personal records, I guess you could say, your personal bests, and to have the opportunity to play against Reading actually in the next round, and then I think we would host DC United. It would be unbelievable. To take on some of the best players in the country right now at the highest level of competition in the MLS. It's definitely something that you aim for and you try to overcome.
Is that going to be fun if you get the chance to line up against your former teammates next week?
Yeah, if I get the opportunity to, it would be a pretty cool experience. I mean, going against some of the guys over there last year, and I know they have a bunch of new players, but it would be nice to see the staff and everyone and the owners and some of the players. So it'd be cool, but looking forward to it for sure.
Now, you obviously mentioned you and Louis and a bunch of guys are new to the team this year. There weren't very many holdovers from the Rhinos squad. And so the back four that you've had in front of you, for the most part, has been getting to know each other as well. What does it say about guys like Kyle Hofford, Tony Walls, Pat McMahon, that they've been able to come together so well? Because it really seems like they've got excellent chemistry in the defensive end right now.
Yeah, they definitely do. I mean, they're all great guys, and they all have great personalities on and off the field, which is a huge help. So when the personalities are clicking off the field, it definitely helps for on-the-field activities. And the communication between the back four and myself, I feel, has been very strong. And we're only trying to improve it every day. And we started from the back and try to move the communication up the field as well. So I feel like communication has helped with the organization along the back line and going forward through the field. So I think that's the key right now.
You guys have got some really interesting games coming up in the next couple of weeks. I think Sacramento comes into town this weekend, and then you get the visit from the Richmond Kickers as well. So are you looking forward to those games against two of the teams that are really playing well right now?
Yeah, I mean, right now our mindset is just on Sacramento, and we know they're I think new to the league this year actually, but they've came out with some really big results, and they've shown that they're a contender for the league this year. So we have to take it as serious as possible, just like we do every game. And then once we finish the game against Sacramento, we'll move on to the Open Cup and then take on Richmond again, which we had a battle against Richmond at their place. So these games, there's not a single game that's going to be easy for us. So we have to go into every game focused.
What are you enjoying most about your first professional season?
Just playing. I mean, playing soccer, I've always wanted to play ever since I was a little kid. It's been my dream to be a professional soccer player, and I don't want the journey to stop here. I mean, I just enjoy the guys, really. It's been a great experience for me so far, and you can't be upset when you're winning either. So that's probably another reason I'm also happy. So it's going really well.
Well, John, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. We really appreciate it, and best of luck for the rest of the season.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Now, as we discussed with John, the Rhinos will get a test this weekend as Sacramento Republic FC comes to visit Sahlen Stadium on what should be a very good game on Friday night. Yes. Sacramento, obviously coming off another big win in front of another big crowd at Hughes Stadium, another sellout, 20,231, and they got rewarded with a very good game and the right result as far as Republic FC is concerned, a 2-1 victory. An important result not just for the Republic, but I think also for the rest of the teams that are in that chasing pack, because Orlando is obviously out there in first place. They're 6 points clear of the Galaxy 2. But the gap between the Galaxy 2 and the teams that are in 3rd through 6th place is now much less than it was. And you look at teams like Richmond is now within touching distance, Rochester, Sacramento with the games in hand they have on Los Dos, all within touching distance. And then you look at the Wilmington Hammerheads, who have played the fewest games of anyone this season, but they were able to pick up another 1-0 win against the Charleston Battery on Saturday night. Entertaining game, great goal by Jordan Hamilton for his first professional finish to earn them the victory. They're on 11 points, but they've only played 6 games. They've only lost once. Those 2 wins back-to-back against Charleston could be the starting point for something pretty good in Wilmington. Is there the feeling here that this side can jump up and maybe get into the top 3 and challenge maybe even for a top 2 spot?
Maybe. I'm hesitant to say it yet. I don't think I've seen enough out of them yet. I think they have some very talented players. They've had the benefit of having a few great players on loan. They're going to miss Quillian Roberts this weekend through suspension, but they've had the benefit of having some good guys on loan. They also have had some players that very much stepped up there, some guys that have returned. That any David Irving team is always going to be very competitive. It sounds sort of cliche because I say it all the time with most of these coaches, but it is an ultra-competitive league, and we do have coaches that know how to get the most out of what they have there in their team, and David does it every year. So for me, I have some similar questions to them as we talked about with the Rhinos before. I need to see some more consistent goal scoring for them. I'm not saying that they need to come and drop 5 goals like Harrisburg did this weekend every match or something.
Yeah.
But 1 or 2 consistent goal scorers for the team, preferably 2 that you can count on is what a team needs. Otherwise, it's tough for me to say that you're a top 3 team. I know the exception for me would maybe be Richmond, because I feel like Richmond has the talent that really spreads it around as they did last year, where they had a bunch of guys with like 5-6 goals.
Yeah.
So I'm going to push Richmond aside because I think they're a different sort of team. But for most of these other teams, and this includes Orlando too, you need that 1 or 2 players that really kind of steps up and can consistently score for you all season. So that I haven't quite seen that yet for Wilmington.
And so far, obviously, for Orlando, those 2 people have been Dennis Chin and Kevin Molino.
Yep.
For Wilmington, though, we mentioned this about Harrisburg earlier.
Yep.
Wilmington, first home win, first goal at home at Allegiant Stadium. So obviously that's a nice little side note for that game, and especially now that they get to return home on to host the Pittsburgh Riverhounds this weekend.
And let's touch on let's go back. We started off the conversation with Sacramento, and that guy for Sacramento is Rodrigo Lopez. Obviously, very good player with the Orange County Blues in the past. Makes the move north up to Sacramento, which is, again, fantastic. We build up those NorCal-SoCal rivalries. Obviously, the biggest rivalry for Sacramento thus far has been the Galaxy, and the fact that they've gone out and they're the only team that has beaten Galaxy so far, and they've beaten them twice. So, but for me, Rodrigo is really the guy that's their pulse there. He was their first signing, correct?
Yeah.
That came out and announced, and he's really been sort of the pulse of that team, and scores a huge goal this weekend to get them the victory. So, really fantastic performance. You can really see the passion in what he's doing out there. He scores that goal, he runs over, he's kissing the badge and everything. You got 20,000 people in the building. So he's really the guy that makes it tick for them. And they have some other guys that can score as well. I think that it'll remain to be seen who steps up and is that other sort of consistent threat for Sacramento game in, game out. Maybe you have a different take on it.
I think the guy who has been that for them has been Tommy Stewart, who has scored the goals that he scores. They always seem to be pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the goal that he scored this weekend, an absolutely exquisite lob of Cody Lorendi. You look at the goal that was voted goal of the month last month with that amazing goal earlier this month with that from the left side, just curled into the far post. And then the goal he scored against Chivas USA Reserves late on in that game, where it was just absolutely, again, perfect. The guy seems to have more touch on his chipping than Tiger Woods did about maybe 5 years ago. But it's just fantastic control. And I think he is that secondary scorer that's going to provide the goals that Lopez is going to create for him. They've got Justin Braun coming back off injury. He made his first appearance for
and he
them.
had some nice efforts early in the year too.
He had some good stuff earlier in the year. So I'm not concerned about scoring with this team. The big thing is, can they maintain this momentum, especially at home? Because if they can, this is a legitimate top 4 team.
Indeed. I would agree with that. They've definitely been the class of, it's kind of hard to call. I mean, technically Galaxy is an expansion team.
The Galaxy 2 are an expansion team, David.
Yeah, technically they're an expansion team, but not in the same sense. But yes, they've been fantastic, both of them.
Yeah, they definitely have been. Well, to talk a little bit more about the great start Sacramento have made and his goal-scoring exploits, as David detailed, we got to talk with Rodrigo Lopez, and that interview will be coming up just after this break. Well, I'm very pleased to be joined now by Sacramento Republic FC's Rodrigo Lopez. Thank you for joining us today, Rodrigo.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure, guys, to be able to speak to you guys again.
Well, first of all, congratulations on the great win on Saturday night. I mean, it's with the crowd that you had and the crowds that you've been getting there, that's got to be a really satisfying win against a very good LA Galaxy 2 side.
Yeah, very good result for us this weekend. Much needed win. Previous to the game, we knew how important this game was. The gap between second place and where we were in fourth was getting pretty big. And if we lose that game and lose points in that game, it would have been hard to get back up. But we knew we needed a win, and obviously our crowds have been phenomenal, and we're getting the support from the city, which always helps. It gives you that extra motivation when you get out on the field.
Obviously, that's been a big storyline in USL Pro this season, the support that Sacramento has shown for Republic FC. What's it been like being out there at Hughes Stadium and just having that number of people in the stands cheering you on?
You know, it's great. It's great. Like I said, it gives you that motivation. You know, we come out and you know, you feel the energy from the crowd, you know, and you feel the need to put on a good show, you know, not just win, but, you know, try to win by playing good soccer. You know, our philosophy is to keep the ball and, you know, get as many opportunities as we can and pressure the team. And, you know, I feel like we've done our job these last couple games doing that. And obviously, you know, having 20,000 people behind you is you know, is special, and I think it gives a lot of the guys, you know, that extra spark, that extra wanting to win, you know.
You've obviously scored a great goal against the Galaxy too, but certainly throughout the season already, it seems the guy that's been scoring really good goals consistently has been Thomas Stewart. And he had another one this past weekend. He had the goal of the month for April last month. What is it that he's doing that's allowing him to perform so well?
You know, Tommy is, from day one, he's a really good player. You know, he's a really smart player, on the ball and off the ball. He makes great runs. You know, he's not too tall, but he's really strong. He holds the ball well, and he works extremely hard. So I think his work ethic and combined with his special talent that he has with the ball and finishing, you know, I'm surprised he's not on your guys' team of the week, but you know, I'm sure it doesn't really matter. You know, we all know he's done a phenomenal job for us, and everyone could see that he's a really good player and an important part to our success.
Now, you guys took victory in the Open Cup last week, especially playing against Ventura County. With the connections that there are between the two clubs, was that special for you guys?
It was. You know, it's special because to me, you know, when I've, you know, been released from an MLS team, or, you know, when I didn't have a team, they would open doors for me, and they would always help me out, you know, and they always helped me get back up to the top level. So, you know, to me it was kind of special to get out there and play against them, and you know, we got the win. Obviously, I'm playing for my team now. I'm playing for Sac Republic, so most importantly was for me, or for our team, to get the win and, you know, keep advancing in Open Cup.
Are you guys excited about that? I mean, you obviously have a game next week against Fresno that, if you win, you get to play San Jose. How big would that be for the team to make that trip down to Kezar Stadium in the fourth round?
Huge. For us, it's going to be a tough week. You know, we have Friday and Sunday this week. We have Rochester, a really good team, and Dayton. And then we travel back, and you know, 2 days later, we play the Open Cup game. So, you know, it's going to be interesting to see who plays. But we have a deep squad, and we have guys on the team who could step up and play, you know, anytime when their number's called up. So, and to answer your question, I think for us as a whole team and organization, I think, you know, if we want to get to MLS, and if the team wants to keep making a name out for themselves, I think, you know, making a push in the Open Cup is really important. And I know Hepreki, it's certainly important, you know, for us to do well and keep going. You know, I'm really sure that, you know, if we're able to beat, you know, Fresno, we'll put on a good game against San Jose, and why not, you know, advance to the fifth round.
You mentioned the game this weekend, particularly in Rochester. I mean, they're a team that's played very, very well. They're on a 7-game undefeated streak. How big is that game for you guys, as you mentioned, try to bridge that gap toward the top two?
Huge. It's a huge game. I know we have 2 games in hand, and this game against Rochester is going to be really important. You know, they're a really good team. I watched them twice already, and you know, they're a hard team to play against. You know, they make it difficult. They defend really well. You know, something I haven't seen in them in the last 2 years. You know, this year they look really organized, and well coached, and obviously they have some good players and some talent on the field, which helps them a lot. And obviously Rochester's not not an easy place to play at. So we're going to come out with our same philosophy and good mentality to go out there and get some points.
You mentioned when we talked in preseason how excited you were to kind of get this season underway. Now that we're about a couple of months in, has it lived up to your expectations so far?
Yeah, obviously we're a new team, and I mentioned it to the boys that we've been working really, really hard day one, and I mentioned it to you when I talked to you early on this year. It's been one of the toughest preseasons, and Precky's done a good job to preparing us for the season. And obviously, we're not going to look like a team in the first 2-3 games, and obviously we did well the first 5 road games and we got some points, but I still feel like we dropped some easy points. We've been beating ourselves, I guess. We've been making our own mistakes and handing some games, so I think now, we're a little more mature, and guys are starting to come together and understand what we're here to do, and what we want out of this year. And I think we have a championship caliber team, so we're not gonna settle for anything less, and we're gonna keep pushing. We're gonna keep playing well and try to get into playoffs in the best seed possible and make a push.
Well, Rodrigo, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We really do appreciate it, and best of luck this weekend as you head out on the road.
All right, thank you, Nicholas. Thank you guys for having me, and for another call soon.
Hopefully so. Bye for now.
Take care. Bye-bye.
As we mentioned earlier, Republic FC with an interesting road trip this weekend, facing Rochester on Friday night. That should be a very good game. Very interested with their game on Sunday night as well, as they visit Dayton, who Dayton obviously is looking for something.
Yep.
They're just looking to try and find something. They obviously went to Harrisburg last week, scored 3 goals, didn't come away with any points. So that'll be obviously slightly disappointing for them. Also on Friday night, we have mentioned before Pittsburgh against Wilmington. Pittsburgh making the trip to the Carolinas. This is going to be an interesting game because Wilmington wants to kick on. They want to try and close that gap and take advantage of the games in hand on the teams they have ahead of them. Pittsburgh, though, this effectively could be a must-win game. They've got to get something out of this to try and get some positive feeling back in the locker room. I think they've got to get points out of both of these games this weekend as they visit Wilmington and then Charleston on Saturday night.
Yeah, I think so. It's obviously a big matchup. We talked about Wilmington and the desire to push forward here. We're going to have to step up and see who scores the goals for them this weekend. I think defensively, I think they've answered a lot of the questions. Well, obviously they'll have a new goalkeeper for this weekend, so it's going to be a question mark for them. But
they have a veteran in Matt Glazer who's got a lot of experience, and I think will be solid for them. I've really been impressed with the way the back four's played, particularly in these back-to-back games with Charleston, where you have Ashani Fairclough coming in and performing very nicely. Christian Davidson providing some experience back there. Yahya Musa being named to the team of the week after. And the thing with him is the way he's being able to get down the flank and support the attack as well really opens things up for them offensively.
I think so too, because a lot of the times the MO for Wilmington is they're a little stagnant, and the ability to push, a little mechanical kind of going forward. And so when you have those wing backs being able to move up and down the sides and push the offense forward, it makes you a lot more dynamic, and it creates a lot more opportunities in your side as well. So it's great to see that you have a player like Musa in the team who can push up and create some opportunities for Wilmington.
Definitely be interesting to see the matchup. We mentioned this type of matchup a couple of weeks ago, where you have Matt Dahlman and then it was Luke Bowden back then for Orlando. This time it's going to be Yahya Musa. How those two kind of play off each other should they get matched up, and I think that there's a likelihood that they will. Other interesting games this week, we have a championship rematch as Charlotte visits Orlando on Wednesday night. And this is a big week for Charlotte because they've been flying a little bit under the radar. They're 3-4-0, 7 games. They've got the opportunity to build here, but they've got 2 really tough road trips this week as they visit Orlando and then visit Richmond on Saturday night. Do we think, is there the chance that Charlotte pulls a surprise in one of these? Because I get the feeling that they're being slightly overlooked for a team that has the quality that it does.
I think so. Obviously, these 2 games on the road, it doesn't get much, it doesn't get much tougher. I shouldn't say these two games. I mean, these two games, it doesn't get much tougher that you play Richmond, you play Orlando, especially going to Orlando here. So no one's going to be envious of the situation that they're in this week. For them, though, coming out of here with the result, and both of them would be fantastic. Obviously, you go back to Orlando. You have to temper your expectations on the road in Orlando. That said, they came out and scored a lot of goals in the last time they were in Orlando. They obviously just couldn't get the result out of it. The defensive part of it didn't work. So whether we're going to see that many goals again, I'm not really sure. But I think it's big for Charlotte to come away with something. I think that it's really a big step backwards if they can't get any points out of these matches.
Big matchup in this one, I think, is going to be the matchup of Jorge Herrera just sitting in that offensive hole and Yordani Alvarez.
Yes.
Because those two are both very good players, both very experienced. Alvarez is going to have to keep an eye on Herrera, because that guy is having a really great start to the season. 4 goals and 2 assists already.
Yes, and we'll talk about, I'll get to Herrera in a little bit. He's one of my players I've tagged to talk about a little bit more. Well, but go ahead.
Yeah. Moving on then.
Yeah.
Arizona United gets its first interleague game of the season on Saturday night as they welcome the Chivas USA reserves.
Yes.
Obviously, I think they'll be been a little disappointed not to get something out of that game with Orlando.
Agreed.
But this game provides a really good opportunity to get a good solid home win against a Chivas reserve side that already lost to Sacramento earlier this season.
I think so. I think one thing that's kind of struck me with this Arizona United team is that they are a team. They've really gelled really quickly. I feel like they play really together really well. I feel like first-year coach Michael Del Russo has done a fantastic job of really pulling these guys in incredibly adverse circumstances in a short amount of time. They've bonded really quickly. I think they look like a team, and they move and pass like a team out there. Obviously, there's a situation where they would have loved to have some more reps, and I still think they're getting those as the season goes on. But they're remarkably on the same page given the amount of time that this team has been together.
And I think that's a credit to Del Russo and to the general manager Kyle Stevenson that they looked at this
Kevin,
as a...
sorry, I don't want to short him. There you go. Keep going.
They looked at this as somewhat of a jigsaw puzzle. And the pieces that they got, the players that they identified, are players that they believed would fit together well.
Yep.
And they've been proven right so far.
Yeah. So when I was out there, and I was out there while they were recruiting a lot of these guys, and the thing that Kevin kept saying is, I want to get these high character guys, and this was even before he had hired Coach Del Russo, and he had the same thing to say about the type of coach they wanted to bring in.
Yeah.
They wanted to bring in high character guys that were accountable. So if they went out there and made a mistake, whether it's on the field or off the field, that these guys were accountable to themselves and to the team as well. So bring these type of players in. I think that's the mentality in which they built this team around. That's what he kept saying. And so I think they have a lot of high character guys there on this team. They're going to go out and give it their all, and I think that's been the case. So, look, going in year one, you have to temper your expectations, especially given the circumstances under which the team sort of came together. That said, I think that as the season's gone on, they're playing as if they got nothing to lose almost. You know what I mean? Like they're playing with the house's money.
And that's a really good place to be.
Yeah.
That's a really good place to be mentally, where you're going out and you're playing positive attacking soccer, home and away, wherever you may be.
Agreed.
Very good place to be. Now, speaking of a good place to be, Los Angeles on Sunday is going to be a very good place to be if you're anywhere near the StubHub Center, because they have got an amazing event going on. We've got 3 games basically back to back to back at the StubHub Center, where you have the W League's LA Blues, the defending league champions, and I've seen their roster this year. I've seen a couple of their early results. This is a fabulous team.
They always are.
Taking on the Seattle Sounders women, who are probably going to be their biggest challengers out in the Western Conference.
Yep.
That should be a great game at 3 o'clock Pacific time out there. Then 5 o'clock, you have kind of the main course, as it were, with the LA Galaxy taking on the Philadelphia Union. But then you've got a pretty good dessert here with the Galaxy 2, fresh off their scrimmage with the U.S. men's national team on Tuesday, getting ready to take on an Oklahoma City side that really has to be desperate for a result after the defeat to Orange County last week and to 2 weeks ago, and then to the Kickers this past weekend. That could be a game that maybe provides the most fireworks of any this weekend.
And I like dessert best, so I think we should just stick with that. So, no, I mean, I agree with you. It's going to be a fantastic matchup. Oklahoma City, they've been a little disappointing in their last couple games, so I think they have a point to prove. I think that being at home, they would have liked to gotten more out of these matches that they have had at home. So I think they really need to come out and get something on the road here, because this is a team that really could use some. Look, it's going to be tough going into LA and grabbing 3 points, but this team at least needs a result here on the road, because you want to stop that slide, and you need to take that and come home with some more positive momentum for your next home match. So I think it's really important for Oklahoma City to come in and get some sort of result here in LA. I think it's an important game for them, and I know that Coach Nielsen and the boys will be up for it given the circumstances.
So at Galaxy 2, as I've just mentioned, they scrimmaged against the U.S. men's national team. They hung out in the Stanford Bay Area in Sacramento after their game this past weekend and scrimmaged on Tuesday. I'm going to put a marker down here. This was the moment where Jack McBean first caught Jurgen Klinsmann's eye.
he's a young guy. He's a young guy. He certainly has all the abilities and traits to grow up and be a national team striker. And we can say that he got his chops.
Got a good start in USL Pro.
Yep.
So, yeah, and he's a guy that maybe for next year's US U20 team, they're going to be getting ready for the World Cup. Team. And for the Galaxy first team, maybe definitely is going to be a guy to watch. Excellent, fun, young, homegrown player.
Yeah.
He, I think, is going to be my player to watch this weekend, because I think that's a really interesting matchup against what has been a pretty solid energy backline that is going to want to respond after a very tough game against Richmond. So that matchup where you have potentially Chandler Hoffman, Jack McBean, Travis Bowen coming into form now is going to really be key in this one, I think. And it should be, as I said, I think this one has the potential for fireworks.
Yeah. For me, and I teased it a little before, it's Jorge Herrera. 2 big games coming up, obviously with Orlando and then Richmond. Jorge is really the guy that makes them tick. He's the heart of that team. He scores the goals. He makes the goals. He sets them up. He's been the mainstay for so long in Charlotte, and he's still a top-level player. So you just going into that first matchup with Orlando, you talk about the matchup with Yordani Alvarez, who obviously has done a fantastic job coming back to Orlando. He sits deep in that midfield, really allows Kevin Molino to do what he can do and be able to push forward. So if Jorge is able to come in and really be a handful with Yordani, and that causes Kevin to have to drop some more and help out more in the midfield, that in turn is going to limit the offensive capabilities of Orlando as well. So, that Jorge coming in and being a problem is really key, and that'll obviously translate also into the same matchup with Richmond.
Attack is the best form of defense, right?
Exactly.
So, we hope you join us to watch Wednesday night's game and all of this weekend's action on YouTube. We hope you'll follow us on social media at USL Pro on Twitter. You can also follow our Instagram account, Facebook and Google Plus pages. David, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.
Thanks for having me. Feels good to be back.
Excellent. Glad to have you back. Thank you, producer Ian, as always, for putting this together. And thank you all for listening. We hope you'll join us again this time next week. Until then, bye for now.